As the lights of Vancouver reflected on the wet alleys, something sinister lurked in the shadows. Women disappeared one by one. Posters with unknown faces piled up on the walls, wet from the rain and ignored by passers-by. In the suburb, an isolated farm held secrets that no one dared to imagine. Robert Pickton, a man of simple appearance with an empty gaze, organized parties that ended without farewells, gates locked until silence took over the early morning. The police hesitated, the press turned away, and mothers suffered alone. In East Vancouver, fear was routine. Sirens pierced the early morning. Taxis crawled through empty streets. Behind the rusty gate, Pickton lived among pigs and filth. His brother took care of the business. He dealt with the mess and the nameless guests. Rumors spread. Women seen entering who never came out again. And, like the fog that covers Vancouver, silence also covered the truth. They were not isolated cases. They were dozens. Women living in shelters, fleeing violence, invisible to the eyes of the law. Pickton was interrogated and released until a report of an illegal weapon opened the gates of hell. Personal belongings of the missing women emerged from the mud. Within a few days, the farm was surrounded. What the police found there would go down in history as the largest massacre in Canada. Fragments of bones, teeth wrapped in cloths, memories of lives interrupted. This is not just a crime, it is a portrait of a country that failed its most vulnerable women. And to understand it, one must face the darkness head-on. While the city pretended normality, women disappeared one by one. Unknown faces, cold nights, families putting up posters, waiting for answers. In the suburb, an isolated farm held dark secrets. Robert Pickton, harmless appearance, empty gaze, parties that ended without farewells, gates locked until the silence of dawn. Everything changes when the gate finally opens. Horror emerges in fragments of bones, abandoned bags, and interrupted lives. It is the largest massacre in Canada's history. Screams muffled for decades now echo throughout the country. Sirens cut through the fog. Volunteers cry in the debris. Canada faces its own reflection in fear. How can we ignore so much suffering? How did we allow such darkness? The farm of lost screams, the crime that changed the country forever. The east of Vancouver does not sleep. It just waits for the next disappearance. The siren cuts through the early morning. A taxi limping through empty streets. Men talking quickly on poorly lit corners. The scene repeats so often that the residents find it normal. Janine disappeared after leaving the bar. Judy didn't show up to pick up her son at daycare. The absences became routine. In the alleys, they were just another lost face in the gray. But to someone, each face was everything. Few people knew what happened beyond that gate. Robert Pickton, a son of the farm, had little education, his face always smeared with dirt, eyes downcast. His world was the farm. The strong smell, skin prickled with grime, the company of pigs. The brother gave orders, took care of the clean side of the business. Robert was left with what remained. The mess, the parties, the nameless guests, the homeless. Over time, the fog in Vancouver was not just atmospheric. It covered eyes and silenced mouths. It was not just disappearance, it was dozens. Sandra lived in borrowed rooms, changing hiding places every week. Mary slept in a tent in the park, fleeing from a violent boyfriend. They all shared the city, but not the same view from the police. Behind each missing badge, there was an interrupted routine. Children waiting, empty tables, promises made to the wind. No one really wanted to know. The police shelved the cases, the press repeated the official narrative. Wendy survives. No one understands how she escaped. Her hands tied behind her back, her face covered in blood, marks on her neck. She arrives at the police station alone. Wendy's nightmare becomes a statistic. Pickton is called, interrogated, and released. The golden opportunity turns to dust. A report of an illegal weapon opens the gates of hell. Police find personal belongings of the missing women, documents, bags, shoes. In a few days, the farm is cordoned off by kilometers of yellow tape. In total, more than 200,000 samples collected. Fragments of bones with millimetric cuts, children's earrings in the mud, children's teeth wrapped in old cloth. The courtroom becomes an altar of pain, a stage for possible justice. Mothers wait. Some sleep on benches improvised with their daughters' clothes. Journalists notice. First time they give a voice to these women. Witnesses cry. Survivors describe to the jury the smell of the farm, the fear, the certainty of impending death. Pickton faces justice for 26 murders, but the real number is incalculable. Dozens of women still missing, many never identified. The trial exposes racism, sexism, the flawed structure, the disregard for underground lives. In 2007, finally, the sentence: life imprisonment with no chance of parole. Pickton does not react. The silence is heavy, almost sacred. The pain is not just of some families. It belongs to the entire country. The tragedy forges new paths. Investigations were reopened, laws changed to ensure immediate search for the missing. Specialized police stations emerge. NGOs multiply support for women at risk. The pain exists, but so does the struggle. Each painted name is a cry not to forget. We are resistance. Every 14th of February, flowers and ribbons fill the cities. Hugs and names echo through the streets. A collective promise of never again. The farm stopped being just a tragedy. It became a scar, an altar, a reminder of the future. Flower by flower, name by name, the victims stop being numbers and become people again. Every time a woman returns home, every time a name is remembered, this story turns into a promise. Never again silence, never again terror in the dark, never again disappearance without answers.